It's been about a week since Paradox Rift has become legal in the Pokémon TCG, and there have been multiple online 100+ man tournaments. If you ever want to play an online tournament, you can go here to play.limitless TCG, sign up with an account, and find an upcoming tournament, and you can test your TCG decks here, wherever. See how it goes. No commitment. Play from the comfort of your home, and if you win, you win. If you lose, you can go do some other stuff. But this is a great way to see what decks are performing well in the Paradox Rift metagame. My name is Rahul Reddy, and today we're going to be looking at some of the top decks that I picked out from over 100+ people tournaments. I think that 100 people is a great sample size for a tournament size because it's not like a lot of variance. There's obviously going to be some decks that perform better and some that don't, but we're going to look at each of the lists, see what's unique about them, and kind of some of the hot takes about this current metagame. And if you like this kind of content and you're one-stop shop for all these amazing lists, please like and subscribe. It would appreciate or help me out a ton. So first list we're looking at is Roaring Moon, one of the newer archetypes coming out from this set, with the Frenzied Gouging attack and Calamitous Slash or Storm or whatever. A very powerful beat stick deck that revolves around Turbo. This list exemplifies that with 4 Pokestop, 4 Earthen Vessel, 4 VIP, 4 Striking Shoes, 4 Dark Patch, no way to disrupt your opponent's hand, just 4 Professor Sada's Vitality, 1 Boss's Orders, 4 Cross Switcher, and a Pal Pad, putting the T in Turbo for this build. Now with 2 more Pekko, you have 2 Retreaters, as well as Mew EX for another way to retreat, and you can use Energizer Wheel if you need to in certain situations. 1 Squawk ability is a little bit suspect because this deck is Turbo, so you might want to Squawk a little bit more. But the interesting part about this list is there are 4 Energy Switch and 2 Water Energies. So you are trying to potentially power up a Greninja out of nowhere with these Energy Switches, or you can even Professor, I guess, Dark Patch to the Morpeko and Energy Switch to the Roaring Moon later on in the game. I think a list like this should probably have 1 Brute Bonnet if you're already playing this many Energy Switches, or like a Galarian Moltres V, because it's an easier way to just accelerate an energy and put it into play. But this list performed very well, so this is an idea of how you should potentially build your Turbo Roaring Moon decks. Another version here performed very well, playing the 2 Squawks that I was talking about, the Galarian Moltres as well. The same thing with 4 Sada, but there is an Iono, so it's a little bit of a reel back the reins. Only 2 Energy Switch, so you don't commit fully to the bit. And there's no Water Energies, so you don't have this Greninja play lined up. More of a variant of stadiums with 1 Town Store and 1 Collapsed Stadium. 2 Ancient Booster Energies, a Vitality Band to shore up some numbers. Get to that 230 mark for the Mirror Match and Iron Hands. But the rest of the list is pretty stock standard, I think, across the board. 3 Ultra, 1 Nest, 1 Collapsed Stadium. The Sealstone makes a lot of sense with 2 V Pokemon, 1 that wants to be sitting and play quite a bit. So, makes sense to me. And then we move on to the Chien-Pao Excalibur archetype that has been dominating this current standard format. The list looks almost identical to the list you've seen for quite a while, except there's a few minor changes. The supporter line looks the same. The Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, VIP looks the same. The 302 Excalibur, the Pokemon line, pretty much the same, except now we add an Iron Hands EX in here. Iron Hands EX, with the Amp You Very Much attack, could do quite a bit of damage in the early game. We added 2 Earthen Vessels to find our energy in the early game, as well as find that 1 Lightning, so we're not committing totally to the bit. With 1 Pokegear, it helps us get pieces off of the Pokestop here, so it makes sense. Countercatcher, Pokegear, and 2 Vessels take the spot of 4 Cross Switchers in these builds, and then the Colognes come out, obviously making space for Iron Hands, and this build looks like it's playing a rope in that spot. So that's kind of the exact changes that you're making. You're sacrificing the Cologne combo to play into the Iron Hands combo and just take 2 prizes anyway on something. Like, the reason you beat Gardevoir and stuff is not because they can't set up when you use Cologne Cross Switcher. It's just because you can take 2 prizes consistently by doing that kind of a play. So if you can Iron Hands into a Gardevoir, take 2 prizes, or like a Ralts, and then they knock it out, and then you take 2 prizes again with the Super Rod maybe, or even just like Counter Catcher if you fall behind, bring up the Gardevoir EX and one-shot it, and then go from there, something like that. Yeah, gives Chien-Pao a lot of resilience. I understand why you don't want to be playing a boss in here, because you can't really find it, and you're playing 4 Pokestops, so it's going to hit the discard pretty easily. Like, if you have it in your opening hand or your gear is here, you get lucky, you know, but I think this list is very solid. We have more of a commitment here to the Iron Hands. In this version, with 2 lightning energies, just committing a little bit harder to the bit. No Pokegear, nothing cute in this version. Supporter line still makes sense. I think the Pokemon line, for the most part, this is like the Pokemon line you want to play. I don't really think there's any leeway to kind of like move stuff around there. I think this is the ideal Pokemon line in almost every scenario. Earthen Vessel makes, again, a lot of sense in this build. And yeah, Chien-Pao is Chien-Pao. We saw Grand Shen dominating with the exact same 60 for quite a few tournaments in a row. So I think it is proven that this deck can be the best it is. Then we have, this is Arvanzard, but it's just Pidgeot. It's just same old, just 101 Pidgeot. Playing the 4/1/3 Charizard and Entei, the new Jirachi to prevent that pesky Sableye damage, and the Manaphy to prevent our board getting blown up. A Mew just to set up for Arven. This is like pretty much a stock standard. We've been playing this Zard list for quite a while now. Just a 101 Pidgeot versus a 202. So that could be a little bit of an issue if you want to commit more to the Pidgeot bit. I don't know where you would make the cuts to make that space. But this list, makes a lot of sense. Penny makes sense to me also, but I think the Penny should probably be the Professor Turo's Innovation, that new card. Those just pick up a guy and put it into your hand. Because you can't Penny a Charizard EX. You can't Penny a Pidgeot. I guess you can Penny everybody else, but you can also just use that supporter to do that in that situation. So, very consistent Arvanzard list. A very consistent, very powerful deck. Charizard EX is very powerful. So just, commit to that bit. We have another one here. Charizard EX, but this one is playing the Arvanzard as well, but you're committing to the Technical Machine Evolutions, and so basically what you want to do is use your Mew at the end of the turn when you have Mew in the active, or you jet energy into the Mew or something, you can go ahead and attach Technical Machine Evolution, and bring up one of your Charmanders becomes a Charmeleon, and your Bidoof becomes a Bibarel on turn 1, so then you have more of a resilient setup, because you're only playing 1 candy in this list. Some lists are playing 2, I think, but you basically become a very resilient deck, where you're just basically trying to get a bunch of Charizards out manually through that TM evolution, and then once you have 3 Charizards set up, or 2 Charizards set up, the game gets really easy. Because Charizard's still Charizard. And it's got 4 Iono, so you're spamming Iono quite a bit, it looks like, with this build. And just being like, hey, I'm going to Iono you every single turn, but I have the barrel and you don't. So this is a very interesting build to come out of this set. And I'm a fan. I like it. I think it's interesting. So, yeah. And here's another Charizard build. This one is more of the same old that we've known for quite a bit, the Arvanzard, with the Pidgeot and the typical slew of support cards. My philosophy with this kind of stuff is if it's not broke, why fix it? So with Zard, you might not have to fix your deck. You might not have to adapt to this new TM Evolution build. If you've been rocking Zard Pidgeot and it's been working out for you, run it, And then we have Lost Tina, something that's fallen to kind of the wayside a little bit, really. But now it's coming back with the addition of Countercatcher. Countercatcher, a lot of the time when you played Tina, you didn't really want to boss. Bossing kind of felt bad. I felt like a lot of the time, you wanted to play supporters, like Iono, Roxanne, late game. Early game, it's always Chorus. So finding your boss on that one crucial turn sometimes, it was cool. Boss is always going to hit the Lost Zone. But now you have Countercatcher, and Tina almost always plays from behind. So you can always Countercatcher, Iono path, Countercatcher Roxanne path, whatever you need to do. And then you have Star Requiem, you have 280, you have Sableye, you have Greninja, you have all these multitude of attackers that are fine sticking something in the active and doing a lot of damage. Against Baxcalibur, bring up the Baxcalibur, knock out the Bibarel. Against Charizard, bring up the Entei, knock out the Pidgeot. Or you have Path in place, so you don't even care. Just put the damage somewhere where it does something. Or you could even bring up the Pidgeot or just Star Requiem the Zard maybe and put the damage somewhere. I don't know. Tina seems very well positioned in this current metagame, but we say that a lot and it doesn't typically perform. So we'll see if we're coping or not. Here's another Tina list. This one is actually, I think, literally identical to the first one. These both lists placed top 2, top 3 out of 150, 180 person events. So it's a testament to how solid the Tina list is. I think there's very little room to flex these changes when it comes to Tina lists. So take that as you will. And then we have Gholdengo, a newer card coming out with the coin bonus ability and Make It Rain. This deck went 7-1, also performing very well in a 180 person event. Playing a 1/1 copy of Scissor with the Punishing Scissors attack that does 10 plus 50 for each ability your opponent's Pokemon have in play. Pretty good to clean up attacks. I don't think you ever can one-shot something big, because I don't think besides like maybe Miraidon, no one is going to bench that many abilities that do something. But you have weakness into Chien-Pao and Iron Valiant, as well as being able to clean up like a Roaring Moon. Set like just a one prize off trade, I think is like the reasoning it's in here. This build is focused around heavy Arven, Worker, just building your hand as quickly as possible. Playing heavy 12 Metal Energies seems very reliant on the fact that Greninja can't be prized. If Greninja is prized, this build seems like it's going to struggle quite a bit. If you go second, you have an insurance policy by going Arven turn 1 to get VIP Pass. And the other card you grab is Technical Machine Evolution, almost certainly. So you can go TM Evolution, VIP Pass, whatever's in your active, and you can go ahead and set up 2 Gholdengos immediately. And the Gholdengos will then net you 3 cards every single turn, effectively with just 2 in play. If you get a third, that's a 4th card, and you just keep building this hand over and over and over again. This deck does seem very, very, like, it does get stuck by Path, I think, quite a bit, like Path Iono late game. But the Arvens, I think, are really cool, because you can Arven, get the SER, make a play, go from there. Like, just getting Arven, maybe we put like a second TM Evolution in here, so if you can go Arven, like late game, you can get Arven, SER, and Evolution. If you get Iona to 1, potentially, and that gives you 3 cards to discard. So potentially that seems like a reasonable thing to do. I don't know what other tools you would play in here. So maybe that's interesting. But I think this is a cool concept. I think Gholdengo has a lot of polishing to be done, but the idea of the deck seems very interesting to me. Then we have Miraidon, good old tried and true. Miraidon has been performing quite well recently. We saw JW take down regionals, and their whole group, performing quite well. 4 top 8s amongst them this season already. So Miraidon is the real deal, and now you get Iron Hands added to the slew. This version is a little bit interesting. I've seen a couple of DTEs in them. This one just has 14 Lightnings, 3 Bravery Charms, and 4 Path to the Peaks. Basically, you're saying, I'm just going to smack whatever's in your active a lot of the time, and I'm just going to Path Judge, Path Iono you every single turn, and just make life as difficult as possible for you. And I like that. I like that a lot. Like, the philosophy makes a lot of sense to me. There's a lot of big beat sticks in this format. Miraidon Mirror, Chien-Pao, Roaring Moon, Mew, if it's still a real threat, Charizard. Like, if you can just get up and running, you should be able to beat these decks. If you have an Iron Hands in the active, and you're Path Judging someone, this Iron Hands is taking a lot of prize cards. Every turn you're 2-shotting something, and even if it's an EX, that's 3 prize cards. You're accelerating the game immediately. So I think this list makes a lot of sense to me. I kind of like this a lot, the idea of how this is played. This might be the exact 60i copy. I mean, maybe make the Pikachu a Zero Aura, just so your Pikachu doesn't get Iron Hands by someone else. But I guess you have your Squawk in play, so that just guy goes down. So maybe not. I don't know. I want to try this variant out. So yeah. And then we have Gardevoir, an old favorite, something that people have liked for quite a bit. How does Gardevoir change? Well, Gardevoir gets Scream Tail, so you can kind of snipe the bench and make a lot of damage happen. You get Counter Catcher, so now you have Counter Catching and Reversal to play from behind. So you can play Counter Catcher, Reversal play, as well as Iono all on the same turn. So you're committing a lot harder to being the I have to go second deck, or not second, but I'm going to fall behind deck. But Gardevoir has never been a deck that takes early prizes. You always give up the early prizes, go into Mirage Step, set up your board, and get the ball rolling. You have Professor Turo's Scenario to just reset something on your board, which is really good because now things can't get stuck. It's a little bit of a better penny. I don't know if I like that card, but yeah. And then you have League HQ Headquarters, which also helps out against Lost Box and other single prize decks when you're Ionoing them. If you're worried about Lugia, you can play Temple. Yeah, and that's like basically your stadium count. If you like want to worry about setup, Artisan, I guess. But I don't think this deck ever really worries about setup. You have so many ball cards, you have so many ball outs. Yeah, Gardevoir is still Gardevoir. Nothing has changed. I think, unfortunately, Gardevoir gains a lot of weird matchups with Iron Hands being in the format and Iron Valiant being in the format. So I don't think you can play it, but I think if you want to play it, this is a good start if you're a Gardevoir player. Lugia is back, and this is a colorless build that has no new cards, which is crazy to me. I know we've seen a lot of the Lugia lists playing all these like hands and whatever, but this Lugia list and a couple other Lugia lists have proven you don't need to change what's broken. Just play colorless Lugia, bring the cards you want to bring, show up, and you can do fine. Like, you'll be fine. Like, this deck has not a single new card in it, and it's performing. And that's quite literally as simple as it is. Like, if you can bring a list that has not stopped working for you as colorless Lugia, Lugia will do Lugia things, potentially. That being said, you probably want to put a Dunsparce in for Iron Hands, but besides that, I think you don't really want to make too many changes. Fusion Mew has still been performing quite a bit at the top of the table. You can see that the builds have not changed too much. There's the one path. This build has 4 catcher, which is crazy to me. But I guess maybe you need to play cards like catchers to gain an inherent advantage against some of the bigger beat sticks. Maybe just like chase down the prizes easier. But Meloetta still is very good for trading off the prize trade. 3/4 Seal Stones is becoming more and more common. I think Horn is good to bring back into the format because things have 230 HP now, which is a little bit annoying because with one tablet you can get to 220, but now you have to get to 230. So maybe Choice Belt could even become Vitality Band. I don't know. I don't know if that number is relevant enough, but it's really interesting to see how Mew has not changed, and this is like probably the end of Mew's career. Like we're at the like Roaring Moon is out, so Mew should not be good in theory. So let's see how you Mew believers respond to this one. And then finally we have Iron Valiant with Urshifu coming in and being one of the newer decks. This deck is really cool. It's got a lot of switching cards, a lot of just like setup, just go. But I think the problem with this deck is it can't really beat some of the bigger decks. Like you really struggle against Roaring Moon. You really struggle against Chien-Pao if you don't just beat them on turn 1. Even Zard, I think if they can actually play the game, you're in a really bad spot. Like that's my biggest apprehension with a deck like this. Like if you can't set up and actually play the game, then like if the other decks play the game, it's tough. Devolution is really cool though because you can just get Devolution. I would probably want to put like one Arven in here or something to find this piece. But if you can find the TM Devolution and devolve like a Zard deck after you put like Tachyon bits everywhere or a Guardy deck or something, like that's really cool. Like that's like a really cool combo that you can always set up to play for. And I think that's like, I don't know, I think that's neat. Like I think it's neat that you can play for something like that. That is, by the way, that is everything in the new format, new decks, top decks that have been performing. Let me know which deck is your favorite, what you're trying to play, what that you think is spicy, and all that being said, please like and subscribe, like I said before. If you're going to pick up new cards as well, go down to the link in the description below, TCG Player affiliate link for me, and check out with that code, with that link, sorry. So thank you guys so much, and peace out.